Allie the mountain dog waking up inside the tent with me. This tent was pretty much our shelter for a pretty wet night last night. We're talking constant rain, slush, and snow falling. So much snow was falling that I was smacking the sides of the fly in order to knock down the accumulations. If you don't do that, it just starts pushing that tent fly against the tent body, and then your whole ventilation system goes to crap. Hey dudes, it's Nutnfancy waking up inside the tent, and I'm going to do an in-field review of this tent that we brought with us, the Kelty Gunnison 2, and all its successors. It might be 2.1, and they'll change the name and the style occasionally, but this one's pretty representative of the entire lineup. I did my series of backpacking tent reviews, the features to look for it last year. You can go reference that. A lot of the stuff I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to see firsthand. For instance, and we're going to talk about the Gunnison in this situation specifically, what drives most to your comfort level? The floor plan for sure, how the floor plan's set up. But on a night like we had last night, I will say it's the ventilation system. How are you going to get all the moisture out of the tent and keep its occupants dry and comfortable? We are pitched on a snowpack, by the way. Okay, and it is June 2010 when I'm doing this, and it was pretty unusual to have the kind of snowstorm that we had last night, but we had it. Kind of driving to the fact you kind of need to be prepared all the time. And in the back of my mind, when I decided to bring the Gunnison, I could have brought a variety of tents. I was thinking, man, I don't know if it's the best tent for what could be pretty hard conditions. But then I said, well, why not give it a workout? Let's go see if it can handle it. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. We were dependent upon this little tent, this little 2-pole, 3-season tent to kind of step up to 4-season use. And to me, that's a great test. And that's why I'm doing this. First off, the ventilation system, like I was saying. Look at all the moisture that's under this fly right here. See that? That's not on the, some might be on the exterior, but a lot of it's on the interior of the fly. This is the vestibule on my right side, and then the Gunnison 2 has another one on this side. And sure enough, just like I was telling you guys in the backpacking tent reviews, it's loaded with water. Where did that water come from? Well, first off, we came inside the tent last night, and we were both soaking wet. Allie was soaking wet, so was I. Some of my wet gear was brought into the tent. Maybe not wet, but damp. Here's the pants I was wearing, the LL Bean Timberledge. They're still fairly damp. I didn't want to put them in the vestibule out there because I want them to dry out a little bit. So some of that moisture came in with us. So we're putting some in the tent. I have my tent sponge here. I'm mopping it up, trying to clean up. You see some on the floor there still. Most of it came, though, from us, just breathing out during the night. Allie, myself, your body just exhales moisture. It's got to go somewhere. In the Gunnison, you have a lot of mesh. And like I said in my series of videos, that mesh is a good thing, even in winter environments. Notice you cannot close this mesh off from the Gunnison door. It's just there. But what that does is try to create a cross flow of air. There it is. That's like the panels on the bottom to where your feet are. Love that. Here's the other one right here. By the way, if you're going in there, that was burning by an ember from a campfire. And there we have it here. Notice the fly, how I have it pitched out there, how it's pulled out. That way I can get a cross flow coming in to push that very humid air out. If you look at the tent body itself, I mean, I showed you the fly and it's loaded with water, but to me, it looks like the Gunnison did exactly what it was supposed to do. The body itself is actually pretty dry. It's humid in here. I'm not going to tell you that it's not, but as far as it goes, as in these conditions I'm talking about, that is high humidity, cold, borderline of freezing, around 30 degrees, varying from 35 to about 30 degrees, I would guess. Pretty comfortable. Look around on the tent or the tent body itself, and notice this is that uncoated taffeta style of nylon. This is exactly what you want. Even though it's not mesh, it will still have some breathability until you go down to really cold conditions. If I was in maybe 15 degrees or so, then the exhalation of moisture could actually freeze and turn this into a coated fabric. I think I talked about that with you guys in that series of vids. But in these conditions, pretty darn good. There's the gear loft for you, included. And you can see what I have in there. What is that? In that Nitcor D10. I took out my super feet from my boots because I did want those to dry a little bit. I have a dry pair of socks, staying dry up there. There's my primary camera, the JVC, which is pretty much shutting down in the moisture conditions this morning. Maybe it'll dry out. My sleeping cap, just stuff. And then, and we're kind of getting into livability right here. The pockets, which I like, and some people say you don't need pockets. Well, they're nice to have, that gear loft especially. Here's the end pocket here. It's got a few snacks in it, stuff like that. Also a part of livability is the floor plan and how big the tent is for its size and weight ratio. That's where I think the Gunnisons really shine, especially the Gunnison 2 series. You can see it's a rectangular floor plan, and that's one of my favorites. It gives just a lot of room. Now granted, there's just one dude and one dog in this tent, and I think that's about all you would comfortably fit in here. You could take dog out and put her in the vestibule if you wanted to. I don't know if I really want to, because she likes to stay warm too. She really doesn't have her exterior coat built up yet. And you could have 2 guys in here. It'd be snug, but it's doable. So 2 person, yeah, 2 maybe medium sized to small people. Remember, I'm 6'3", 200 pounds, so I'm gonna take up some space, and so will most other guys. We're looking at the window on the Rainfly. You know, do I ever use those? No, I don't. Not necessary, but in one way it's good because it shows you the water that's falling, and you can hear that the rain's picked up again. Lightly this time. Big old water drop falling down the Rainfly. When we look under the fly here, it's really important there's no obstacles or obstructions to the airflow. Sleeves can do this. If you have a tent with solid fabric sleeves, they create air pockets where moisture cannot escape. The Gunnison series uses clips on the poles. That way, if air or wind comes in under that Rainfly, blows in right here, travels up, no obstacles, and it keeps pushing, hopefully, some of that moisture all the way over the tent and down the other side. Again, weather has a lot to do with it. In other words, if you're in really high humidity conditions, which we are, that process is not going to happen readily. There's not a lot of evaporation going on. It's just the air's too loaded with moisture for a lot of that to happen. But it's doing it as best as it can for the given conditions. And all conditions are different. I mean, sometimes you're going to have, like I said, super cold conditions, and you're going to be dealing with ice and frost. We're in intermediate, what I think are intermediate cold conditions, and we're dealing with water mostly. Some condensation falling on the sleeping bag. One thing I don't have underneath the tent, which I forgot to do with this particular model, is build me a tarp base. I just cut out a plastic tarp underneath it. So this tent is actually sitting directly on the ice pack or the snow pack. There's some of that moisture. This is probably condensation from the tent coming in. Maybe some that we brought in with us when Wet Dog came in. I tried to dry her off as best I could. The pack towel. The vestibule itself is actually relatively roomy, and they give you 2 of them. There's my wet Gore-Tex. It's soaking wet, at least on the outside. And then you got the other one on this side. Entry and exit out the vestibule is actually doable. What you better do is, and I did this last night, is really knock that. I don't want to knock it too much because all that moisture is on the inside and it's going to drop right in my tent, just like it did. Duh. But when you zip it open, fling that to the side and then you can exit. There's my kneeling pad I bring with when I exit the tent. Look at all the snow and water. It's everywhere. Hair too. Look at Allie's rain jacket. How nasty that is with her hair. Oh, don't kid yourself, man. These conditions are tough. You will get wet. It's just unavoidable. The thing you definitely want is when you get in your shelter, your tent, is to get dry. Okay, and that's what the Gunnison did for us last night. Because I'm dry and toasty right now. And I'm getting ready to get wet again as I go into the outside. Same with Dogness here. Okay, so there you go. There you go. That's livability real time from Nutnfancy of the Gunnison 2 in high alpine conditions. I'm going to show you on the exterior, or give you a walk around of the exterior of the tent as well. By the way, if you guys are wondering, that's a 4.7's Mini 123 light. That formed a perfect night light for us, along with my headlamp, the Nitecore D10. On the exterior of the Kelty Gunnison 2, you can see how the Rainfly orientates on the tent, and it's a pretty good Rainfly. You can see how expansive for the tent size those vestibules are. 2 of them, like I talked about on the inside. Color coded on the outside so you know how to orientate the tent fly. Yellow on yellow, black on black. We'll show you how to slam that thing on there. Just like I said on the other segment, there's your tie outs for the Rainfly. So in windy conditions, you pull that tight in all 4 corners, attaching the Velcro attachment straps to the pole. This one's attached here. You can't see it. I showed you on the inside of the tent. And that would give you more rigidity in windy conditions. It still is a 2-pole design. 2-pole designs are, by essence and by their geometry, a little bit noodly. Just the way it is. But again, you can mitigate that a little bit with the tie-outs. Vent holes there on the tent with the Gunnison 2. I love that. Anything I can do. Smart me, I left them closed all night. Not cool. I could have had those open. Maybe that's one reason I have so much condensation under here. So, did pretty good though. Pretty happy with the Gunnison 2. It is not a mountaineering tent, so don't think it is. And there is one other minor thing I saw. Minor, major, depending on your point of view. I was wrong. I think some moisture is penetrating that tent floor, because I lifted up the pad and it is just kind of soaking through there. 2 reasons for this. It's just not heavy coated nylon, or it's not heavy nylon, and the polyurethane coating is lightweight. Run a tarp underneath it for more waterproofness. And I forgot to bring mine with, so there you have it. You got condensation coming up from the bottom. But it's lightweight, it's portable, it's compact. And in some no kidding tough alpine conditions last night, that is constant snow and rain, it held up and kept its occupants, that is Allie and myself, pretty darn dry wherever she went. Quick review, highly recommended. That's a Kelty Gunnison 2 series for either camping or, as I think of it, a really good option for your bug out kits. It's affordable, lightweight, compact. Nutnfancy. See ya.